It was an ordinary day, just like any other, until the unexpected happened. The day had been long and demanding, leaving me drained of energy. As I drifted off into sleep, a strange vision, or was it a dream, began to unfold before me. I found myself in an office, the walls tinged with a soothing shade of blue. I was leaning against one wall, though I couldn't recall what I was wearing, or whether I had my watch on. My memory of the details was hazy. I couldn't even tell if it was morning or afternoon. But the soft daylight seeping in from a window at the far end of the room told me it was day. There were other elements in the room, perhaps furniture of some sort, possibly a carpet, books. I couldn't be certain, but there was something else in the room, a presence that I couldn't ignore. Across from me, against the opposing wall, stood a man. He seemed around his late 30s, his gaze locked onto me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. He seemed angry, deeply saddened, and disappointingly silent. His face was partially obscured, hidden from me, and despite my desperate attempts, I couldn't see it fully. Something about his presence was unsettling, downright terrifying. I could feel a discernible shift in the room's energy as he continued to eye me, his right foot pacing forward and backward in a rhythmic pattern that only added to my unease. He never advanced, but his mere presence was intimidating enough. To my left, a desk sat laden with a few books and perhaps some office supplies. The desk itself was nondescript, about 5 feet wide, and topped with a layer of glass reminiscent of an 80s design. While I was alone in the office with the man, I couldn't shake off the feeling that there were others nearby, perhaps employees of the same building. The man's gaze never wavered, and I could feel the weight of his disappointment and concern. He seemed particularly troubled by my lifestyle, my affinity for beer. As the man's gaze bore into me, I found myself terrified, knowing that he was up to no good. It was a realization that hit me like a bolt of lightning. The man before me, his gaze intense and unyielding, was not just any man. His identity unfolded in my mind, filling me with a sense of awe and trepidation. This was not a mere mortal. This was Jesus, the man who had been the subject of countless stories, the man whose teachings have shaped the lives of billions, stood before me. The intensity of the moment amplified, his gaze becoming more penetrating, as if he could peer into the deepest recesses of my soul. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, matching the rhythm of his foot as it paced back and forth, forward, backward, backward. The repetitiveness of the motion was hypnotic yet unnerving. The sound of his foot tapping against the floor echoed in the otherwise silent room, amplifying the tension that hung in the air like a thick fog. Each tap was a reminder of the impending judgment I was about to face. A wave of fear washed over me, chilling me to the bone. The reality of my situation became terrifyingly clear. I was about to be judged by the creator of the universe, the creator of the mountains, the oceans, the stars in the sky, and even the smallest blade of grass, the creator of life itself. And here I was, a mere mortal, facing judgment for my wasteful existence. The pacing of his foot continued, a constant reminder of the discomfort I felt. Each tap was a ticking clock, counting down to my judgment. The fear was overwhelming, and yet I could not tear my gaze away from him. His eyes held a sadness, a disappointment that was almost palpable. It was as if he was mourning the life I could have led, the potential I had squandered. His gaze never wavered, his foot never stopped pacing. The intensity of the moment was almost unbearable. I felt as though I was standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into a chasm of uncertainty. The fear, the anticipation, the regret, it all swirled around me in a maelstrom of emotions. As he paced, I couldn't help but feel more uncomfortable, knowing I was about to be judged by the creator of the universe. There were no words exchanged, but the conversation was loud and clear. The air was thick with unspoken dialogue, a language of emotions and silent admissions. His gaze was a mirror, reflecting back at me the life I had been leading. His sadness was palpable, a heavy shroud that filled the room. He didn't need to voice his disappointment. It was written in the lines around his eyes, the set of his jaw. He was concerned, deeply so, about my lifestyle. The choices I had been making were taking me further from the path he had envisioned for me. The love I held for beer, an innocent, pleasure-turned obsession, was a glaring concern. It was this silent conversation that brought forth a startling realization. He was not just any man, his concern was not ordinary. In the silence, it was clear he was Jesus, and he was concerned about my lifestyle, especially my love for beer.